Hello and welcome back to the simulated 2024 F1 World Championship. This is round number 7 of 24, taking place from Imola in Italy. After 2 sprint weekends in a row, we're back to a normal race format, and at a proper track again, thank goodness. Imola ended up not taking place IRL last year due to wide-scale flooding in the area, so let's hope this year's iteration can provide 2 years worth of satisfaction rather than just 1. Although with how this season has gone so far, this seems unlikely. Here's how the driver standings shape up after the last round at Miami. Charles Leclerc takes the lead of the championship with 78 points, with Tsunoda closely following in second. Hamilton and Alonso occupy third and fourth, followed by the 2 Red Bulls of Verstappen and Perez. Albon continues to outperform his Williams in 7th, followed by Norris in 8th. Stroll and Sainz round off the top 10. As for the constructors, Red Bull and Ferrari are separated at the top by a singular point, followed by Aston Martin and Mercedes. The Cash Money team of RB are in 5th with McLaren in 6th. Williams are in 7th thanks to Albon's heroic efforts, followed by Alpine and the Kick Sauber team. Haas are still bringing up the rear with 15 points. Compared to the actual standings, the Red Bull duo of Verstappen and Perez still lead the way at the top, followed by the consistently scoring Leclerc in P3. Norris, fresh off his first F1 victory, takes 4th, with Sainz in 5th on the same points. Piastri occupies 6th, closely followed by Russell in 7th. Alonso takes up P8 with Hamilton in P9, and Tsunoda breaking into the top 10. As for the constructors, there's not much change from before, with Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren occupying the top 3. Mercedes have a healthy gap to Aston Martin in 4th, with RB increasing their points tally in Miami significantly to hold down P6. Haas are still in 7th, and Alpine are finally on the board with a solitary point in 8th. Williams and Sauber occupy the bottom 2 positions with 0 points. Now it's time to find out who we will be racing as for the Emilia Romagna GP. Alex Albon has been removed from the wheel, leaving 14 drivers to be selected. Without further ado, let's find out who we will be driving as around the Imola circuit. And it will be Yuki Tsunoda in the RB. Without a doubt the most consistent driver in this simulated season thus far, Tsunoda still hasn't got a win to his name in this campaign. Can we finally change that and bring Tsunoda back into the lead of the championship? It's time for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Alrighty then, we're sitting here in the Imola garage here. We got a very realistic point of view there of Yuki Tsunoda without a steering wheel again, but there you go, that's the mod for you. As we start our first flying lap around Imola, I saw the forecasting, it was going to rain eventually during the qualifying session. I didn't realise it would start raining this quickly, as you already see drops of rain on the camera. Meaning I've got to get this lap done, that time done very quickly and quite well, but I go through that chicane quite poorly, in fact, as I head into the hairpin. I can't remember any of these corner names, I am a fake fan. As I continue on the lap here, trying to get this done as quick as possible before the rain gets heavier, but the rain is already getting heavier, which is definitely compromising my handling as the lap progresses. And yeah, this lap has definitely not gone very well so far, but hopefully it'll be good enough. There are some people still in the garage, surprisingly, which not a good look for them. Moving on with the qualifying session as we go towards the end of the lap here, going through the final couple of corners. Again, I can't remember what the name of these corners are. I probably should have looked up beforehand before recording this, but you know, here's what it is. I have a massive bout of oversteer going out the last corner, which is really going to affect my lap time. It's a 1:18.429, which is the slowest time so far, but hopefully it's good enough to make it into Q2, and it is, because everyone else making lap times after me was slower. So yeah, we made it to Q2. We've lost from Q1 Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Nico Hulkenberg, Esteban Ocon, and Logan Sargent. Both the Alpines are gone. Stroll is gone in the Aston Martin, not too much of a surprise there, it is Stroll. Hulkenberg a bit of a surprise there in a Haas. And then Sargent in P20, as he tends to be. As we move on to Q2 now, the rain has fully come down. And yeah, it's our first little run in on the intermediate tyres, which should be interesting, as I have a nice little battle of oversteer coming out of the first chicane. I believe it's Tamburello. As we skip to the end of the lap here, not really much going on. We make our lap time there. And we set the fastest lap time so far, 124.792, but I feel like I could go faster. So I go out again later on in the session, the end of Q2, and I actually do set a faster lap time. We can see already over a second up. And we set a lap time of 123.5, which easily puts us in P1 for Q2, easily gets us into Q3. And we've also in Q2, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull is out after the second bout of qualifying. That is the biggest shock of this session so far. Verstappen being out in Q2. We also lost Zhou Guanyu, Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo, and Valtteri Bottas. Both the Saubers out in Q2, along with our teammate and Verstappen in the Red Bull. As we move on to Q3 now, the weather has dried up again. And yeah, we're going to set our run here in Q3 here. We waited till the last part because it was still drying up the track. But nonetheless, we go through the chicane. We have a little rear end loss at the back there. Nothing too major, but that will compromise us going through the lap as we go through the second chicane here at the end of Sector 1. Saying a first sector of 24.2. Not a very good one. My first sector is definitely not my strongest sector around this track. But hopefully I can make up some time in Sector 2 and Sector 3, which are definitely much stronger for me. Even though I don't really utilise all the track there going through the corner. And this double right-hander does like to catch me out on the best of days. Doesn't catch me out here, thankfully. As I move towards the end of Sector 2 now, we have a 50.139. Not a purple sector, but I'm not really expecting any purples here. Head for the Spudley chicane coming out. That's where Charles Leclerc crashed last time out IRL in Imola in 2022. As we move to the final double left-hander. A little spout of rear end loss there again. Kind of go wide coming out the final corner as he head towards the line. Cutting the inside as much as I can. And in the end, we end up P10. So not a very good Q3 for us.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Fernando Alonso, Albon and George Russell. Qualifying wrapped up, we now have our grid line up for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
As I said, not a good Q3 for us, but the top 10 only separated by just under 0.4 of a second, so it was very, very close. And heck, second to 10th was only separated by just under 0.3. But nonetheless, we have Fernando Alonso on pole yet again. He took both the poles in Miami and now he takes pole here, followed by Alexander Albon in the Williams. Mega qualifying from Albon there to get onto the front row. And then we got the two Brits of Russell and Norris in P3 and P4, followed by Sainz in P5. Sergio Perez in the sole remaining Red Bull is in 6th. Charles Leclerc in 7th. Hamilton, bit of a disappointing qualifying for him. He starts 8th. Oscar Piastri starts 9th. And Yuki Tsunoda rounds up the top 10. Qualifying's done. The only qualifying this weekend is done. So we're going to move right on to the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix.
Imola, or to give it its full title, the International Autodrome of Enzo and Dino Ferrari. Enzo, one of the most evocative team creators in history. This place is named for their legacy, and it's a beautiful tribute. 3.1 miles of track at Imola, featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula One tracks as it's driven anti-clockwise. Let's hope nobody forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight on the circuit and its only DRS zone. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. An immense lap from Fernando Alonso yesterday puts him on pole position, just edging out Alex Albon, who will start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Norris, Sainz, Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Verstappen, Joe, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Ocon and Logan Sargent. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And Anthony Davidson joins us for this one. And great to have your company. There's no weather to worry about here. What will be going through the drivers' minds as they finish these last-minute preparations?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Here we are then on the grid at Imola, still got the accurate Yuki Tsunoda POV. As we look at our strategy here, we've got the medium, soft strategy recommended to us at the very start. Very good stuff. Excuse me there. We're just adjusting our times here just to get a little bit more life out of the medium and soft tyres. I feel like they can go longer than was recommended. I also put a bit more fuel in the car because I don't really know what my fuel consumption is going to be for this race. As we move on to the formation lap now. And we got a bit of a spread of tyres. Most of the grid is on mediums with a few exceptions. Alonso, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton and Zhou all starting on the softs. No one's starting on the hards currently. Although that's probably a good thing. But most of the field starting on the mediums, including ourselves. As we see Yuki Tsunoda gripping an invisible steering wheel. Very good stuff. That was my phone going off in the background. Don't mind about that. It's all part of the recording experience. It's very much all part of the recording experience, chat. As we move back onto the grid, getting onto our grid slot. Remember, we're starting P10. We got Max Verstappen right beside us in P11. We got Oscar Piastri in front of us on the left. Hopefully we can make up a few places off the line, but it really depends on how well my start goes. My starts have been pretty good in the last few races, so hopefully we can keep that run going as we move on to 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And we've already made up a position off the line if we overtake Piastri, and then we overtake Hamilton and Leclerc and Perez. We've already moved up 4 places. We haven't even reached the first chicane yet. And I tried to go around the outside there with Leclerc. Leclerc tries to come back, but I do cover him off. And we've already made up 4 places in only 3 corners alone, which is a very good start for us. Alonso probably get the best start of all. He's already over a second ahead of Albon in P2. He's already out of DRS range. So Alonso looking very good already for the lead and potentially the win moving on. But this is only lap 1. There are 63 laps. It is a long way to go. The skies are very cloudy. There could be rain on the horizon. We shall see. Although the forecast said there wasn't going to be any rain for this race. But nonetheless, Alonso romping off ahead as we try to catch up to George Russell in P5 here. We're actually right on the back of him near on. So hopefully we can make up another place going into the next lap maybe, but who knows, we're still going to try keep behind him here. As we've got Albon, Norris and Sainz battling away as well in front of us as we come out the last corner. We try to get the slipstream on Russell. The slipstream is working. Remember, we don't have any DRS until lap 3. I know 2024 it's it's on the second lap it gets activated, but nonetheless, we move around the outside of Russell going into the first chicane, the Temporary chicane. We brake a little bit later, and we make the move stick, and we're up to P5. Making up 5 places within a lap and a bit. Very good, but Russell is trying to come back, going into the inside of the chicane. We kind of go side by side. We kind of push him out wide a little bit, but that's racing. Rubbing is racing. And we keep the P5, and Russell has to settle for P6. So yeah, we're up 5 positions already as we move on to the beginning of lap 3. We see Norris now trying to go around the outside of Albon into the Temporary chicane, and he makes the move stick. Norris is up to P2 now, and hopefully he can set off after Alonso, who is now 2.5 seconds ahead of this pack here of 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Notice that we've actually kind of dropped away from this pack because of us having to overtake Russell. But nonetheless, Albon comes back in with the DRS. and gets back into P2. And this is kind of a running theme throughout the race. The AI love to use the DRS to overtake each other on the start-finish straight. As we see here with Verstappen and Piastri. Verstappen moving back up to P11 where he started. Piastri not having a good start. He did start in P9. He's now down to P12. And has Magnussen and co for company behind him as well. So could lose even more positions. As we see Leclerc now trying to overtake Russell into the Tamburello chicane. They go side by side. They're still side by side. They're still battling with each other for P6. Which allows us to get away from them. And actually allows us to get out of DRS range. So that does benefit us in a small capacity. But they're still side by side. Going out the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2 around the hairpin. But Russell does have the inside. Can he keep the position? No, Leclerc still holding on around the outside. And Hamilton also has a sniff. Maybe looking to overtake the pair of them. And Leclerc with superior straight line speed just gets into P6. But Russell isn't done yet. And he even forced Leclerc to a mistake there. But Leclerc still holding on to P6. As we see Alonso now, who is still romping away, but Norris and Albon are actually kind of catching up thanks to them trading DRSs off each other, so it could end up being a three-way fight here for the lead. Nonetheless, it is not, as we see Alonso making his first pit stop on lap 18. So, and we also see, I think that's the Sainz. Yes, it is indeed Sainz. We've got the two Spaniards making their first pit stops, so we've got the leaders who all start, well, the leaders who started on softs anyway, making their first pit stop after lap 17/18. Very interesting for the strategy. But nonetheless, we see Verstappen here on lap 20. Who is actually going off to the side of the track. It looks like he's retiring again. Although he's actually come onto the track, which is kind of weird. And then went off the track again. Don't know what Verstappen was doing there. But Verstappen is our first retirement of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Very disappointing for him. Remember, he is the IRL champion, not the simulator champion. That is Alonso. But Verstappen is out of this race. As we see Hulkenberg now also slowing down on lap 21. So within 2 laps, we have 2 retirements in this Grand Prix. First Verstappen, now Hulkenberg. Going, well, yeah, he's going to be the second retirement of this race. So now we have 2 yellow flags out on the track here. Very interesting stuff. Could this be elevated to a safety car or a possible red flag? Who knows? In fact, my answer is yes, the safety car is now out with the 2 retirements. So, and we haven't made our pit stop yet, which makes this very opportune for us and for Norris as well. It's going to benefit Norris, Tsunoda and Ricciardo. And basically, it's going to benefit anyone who's pitted. And it's even a red flag. It's been elevated to a red flag, which means the race is stopped. And that means we get an absolutely free tyre change, which means anyone who hasn't pitted yet is going to benefit massively from this red flag. But everyone who's pitted already are going to suffer massively. As we look at our strategy now, our strategy's actually changed. It actually wants us to go onto the soft tyre for this section of the race and end on the mediums. And I actually agree with this instance as we go back to the grid, starting in P2, as we see 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go again. We had a good start last time. We get a good start again as we jump Norris off the line. Norris, of course, celebrating his first IRL F1 win in Miami, but in the simulated Imola GP, he has lost the lead already on the restart, and we take the lead on the second restart. Norris having a sniff, but decides better of it, as we decide to try and move away from Norris as fast as possible now. Our goal is to try and get out of the DRS range before the DRS is activated on lap 25. Although we're not doing a very good job of it, as Norris is very much still right behind us. Ricciardo's still in P3, Sargent actually in P5 there. Good opportunity for him to get his first points of the season. We shall see if he does so later on in the race. But we see Ricciardo now trying to overtake Norris into the chicane, and actually does so. But Norris sticking around the outside, getting better traction out the chicane, and thus holds on to P2. But Ricciardo's not giving up about a fight. He tries to go side by side going into the last couple of corners, but Norris does have the inside. He still hangs around the outside. This is so close. And we're still side by side going into the first straight here. And even Ocon now is joining the party, making it 3 wide going down the start-finish straight. And even Sargent having a look at it. And in the end, Ocon actually ends up overtaking the pair of them going into the first chicane, as Ricciardo and Norris are still side by side coming out the corner, but Norris holds on to P3 but has lost P2 to Esteban Ocon. Ocon sensing an opportunity there, but since Ocon and Norris and Ricciardo were all in DRS range, they end up basically squabbling amongst themselves for the majority of this race, basically making a pseudo DRS train here. As yeah, we got Ocon back into P2. Sargent, meanwhile, who was running up in P5 at one point, is slipping down the order, unfortunately. Looks like he's not going to get any points after all, as we see Russell overtaken now for P12. Very unfortunate for Sargent, but he really needed to step up at this point, and he has not. As we move on to lap 39 of 63, we go in for our, well, I say our one and only pit stop. Technically, this is our second pit stop, but this is our only pit stop in the race while it's live, considering we got a free pit stop during the red flag. But nonetheless, we're moving off to soft tyres now. The soft tyres have done very good for us. We're moving back onto a new set of mediums for the rest of this race. And yeah, hopefully this works out for us. None of our competitors behind us did pit, so hopefully we'll have a very, very clean track ahead of us, so we can bang out some laps and hopefully make the gap in front even more large than it was before the pit stop. As we see Ricciardo now actually in P1. So both the RBs having a fantastic race currently, as we see Ricciardo now battling away with Albon in P2. We actually moved back up to P1 because everyone else pitted in front of us. Albon is now under attack from Zhou Guanyu, who's actually brought himself into podium contention, and then going side by side allows Ricciardo to actually break free of the DRS, which means he's now free of the DRS train, which means we now have a bona fide RB12 at the Imola GP, which is very appropriate considering RB is very much based near this track. Remember, RB was originally Minardi before becoming Toro Rosso, and then now AlphaTauri, and then RB as it is today. So we have a home 1-2 here for RB, as we see Alonso, who was on pole position, who was leading the race by a healthy margin, now down in 15th place. The red flag really hurting his race. Very unfortunate for him. He hasn't really done much wrong in this race. As we see Norris and Zhou now battling out for the final podium spot. It's really only between them two at this point. Russell is 2 seconds down the road. They can't catch up to Ricciardo, who is still free from DRS range. So it's really between Norris and Zhou for that final podium spot. As we move on to the last lap now, pretty much we just romped away at the front and never looked back. Ricciardo over 10 seconds down the road. He was not a threat to us. As we come out the final corner, it's going to be Yuki Tsunoda who wins the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix.
And that's it then for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And what a sensational victory they've managed to pull off here. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, when you overtake that many people, I'd certainly hope you'd win the race. Their car was really effective in the slipstream here today, and the team will be pleased that they didn't cook the engine, given how long they were spending in the hot air behind other cars. They had a lot of confidence to push their tyres hard as well, especially going into the corners, which allowed for some late braking and some exciting passes.
As we await the winners to take their positions on the podium, one thing is clear. AlphaTauri have really shown their prowess on the track. This is a team that isn't afraid to take risks, whether that's on the circuit or in the new talent they hire. Today, those risks certainly paid off.
So there we go, 63 laps of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix done. It ends up being an RB12. Fantastic race for the Cash Money team, with Lando Norris taking the final podium spot in the end ahead of Zhou Guanyu. But yeah, RB definitely the stars of the show today. They're definitely going to get a lot of Constructors points. Remember, they're in P5 in the Constructors currently, but not that far from the top. As we now see the race results. Again, RB12 Tsunoda in front of Ricciardo. Remember, they started P10 and P14. The red flag definitely helping out the pair of them. Lando Norris rounds up the podium spots. Zhou Guanyu, still impressive race for him in the Kick Sauber in 4th. George Russell in P5. Ocon and Gasly, the two Alpines, 6th and 7th, getting decent points for the team. Leclerc in 8th. Alexander Albon slipping from 2nd to 9th. Still gets a couple of points for Williams, but he'll be a bit disappointed with that. And Oscar Piastri is the last of the points finishers in 10th. As the rest of the classified finishers, we've got Logan Sargent just missing out on a point in P11. Stroll in P12, Magnussen P13, Alonso, who started on pole, unfortunately finishes down in 14th, Perez only 15th, which means 0 points for Red Bull today. Hamilton down in 16th, Sainz 17th, and Valtteri Bottas is the last of the classified finishers in P18. And we had 2 retirements, which were Nico Hülkenberg and Max Verstappen. And there we go. That is the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix done. Next race is in a week's time. It's the race I'm dreading the most. Let's be honest. It's the Monaco Grand Prix. Oh, good gosh. It'll be, that one's going to be a nightmare. I don't like driving around Monaco at all. Not because, you know, it's hard. It's just, I'm not a good driver. Let's be honest. We've seen that in these races already. So there's going to be a lot of incidents, I'm sure. But I'm going to try my best. I'm going to get a video out for you. Also, it'll be the last race before F1 24 comes out. Not sure if I'm getting it on launch day, let's be honest. But we'll see. I might end up giving in because I'm a pleb. But nonetheless, Monaco Grand Prix in a week's time. Hopefully you're tuning in for that one, if not only to watch me fail. As for the driver standings after the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, we got Yuki Tsunoda back on top. First driver to break into the 3 digits on points, he's on 101. Charles Leclerc goes back down to P2 with 82 points. Hamilton in 3rd with 67. Fernando Alonso stays in P4 with 64 points. Verstappen stays in P5, stays in P5 with 61. Lando Norris actually moves up to 6th with 58, thanks to his podium. Albon in 7th with 53. Perez moves down to 8th with 52. Russell in P9 with 39 points. And Lance Stroll rounds up the top 10 with 37 points. As for the constructors, RB with their massive points haul today jumped from 5th to 1st. With 130 points. Ferrari moving ahead of Red Bull, in fact, on 116 points. Red Bull moved down to 3rd, thanks to the no score here in Imola. Mercedes move ahead of Aston Martin now. They're up to 106 points. McLaren still in 6th with 89. Williams still in 7th with 53. Alpine stay in 8th. Actually, do they stay in 8th? Yes, they do stay in 8th. With 34 points. Sauber still staying in 9th despite Zhou's 4th place finish with 28. But they both move further ahead of Haas, who are still in last with 15 points. And there we go. That is the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix done. As I said, next race is Monaco GP in a week's time. Hopefully you'll watch that video as well. It's going to be the last race in F1 23 before F1 24 comes out. Whether it will be the last race in F1 23 proper remains to be seen. But nonetheless, hopefully you'll join me for the Monaco race. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, give me my channel, subscribe. I'm going to do a video for all the races this season. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this race. And hopefully you enjoy the next race. Hopefully you enjoy all the future races to come. And hopefully I'll see you all next time.